Debuting in Medarot S as a newcomer to the game and designed by the legendary Sumito Oowara of Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken, it is PTR00 World Cup. With a kit of Mudshot, Mega Gatling, Anti-C, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Super Armor, which renders the user immune to paralyzed ailments such as Tornado, Thunder, or even Freeze a certain number of hits. Now, I'll be completely honest. As famous as the author is, I thought I'd seen it all over the course of my nearly 4 years of reviewing Metarots for Medarot S and so on, or even just talking about the series as a whole. I thought I'd seen the strangest of designs across the entirety of the franchise, between house appliances to bowls of food, or even a floating sword with a shooting attack. But never before in my entire time as a content creator would I ever see myself reviewing a model that's based off of a very fancy toilet. That being said though, Mudshot on the head part is a shooting attribute skill that has a very unique damage ailment and condition when attacking the opponent. That being said, when landing this hit on the opponent, it will actually convert the opponent's leg type to C-based, which means that if they do not have any compatibility with C legs at all, their mobility will fall to an absolute crawl. If they already have it, well, it would still slow them down just a little bit, but this is a very, very good way to stall any major enemy's speed, since you have to really pay attention to what kind of metal they're using and just how chaotic this can be. However, Mudshot also has another really interesting condition to it. It's the fact that this mud state stays on the opponent until they're attacked. This means that if you land it on the opponent and until it's either removed by someone using Stat Cleanse or they're attacked, their leg type remains as C while this mud state is effective on them. Mega Gatling on the right arm is a conventional shooting skill that gets a times 1.5 damage bonus as long as the user's legs remain intact. With a very high heat and cool between the high 700s to mid 800s, this in particular is a skill that World Cup is able to use very, very quickly without anything really stalling his movements or anyone easily outrunning him. And with a base power in the mid 1500s, it's already off to a very good start. And as a scatter skill, this does mean that it's going to damage one part normally and then 2 others randomly for extra damage. Additionally, scatter type of attacks are also really good for shredding through shields, as this means instead of taking only 1 charge per shield used, it instead will take 3. Anti-C on the left arm is a conventional shooting skill that gets a massive conditional damage bonus, much in the same case that Anti-Air does. Simply put, if attacking anyone with a C-based leg, it deals a times 7 damage bonus to that particular enemy, making a seemingly weak base attack at just under 1000 base power on its own into something extremely powerful and just as crippling if put under the right conditions. And, you look at that, Mudshot converts the target's leg type to C, which means this essentially brings a whole new meta back into the current game by being able to use Mudshot and Anti-C, much in the same cases that anyone would use Tornado and Anti-Air. Biped Legs means that World Cup will have relatively solid coverage across all terrains with very diverse coverage, and his leg stats across the board really aren't all that shabby either. With a base mobility of 899, he's off to a very solid start in the speed department, so pairing that with the very high heat cool of his Mega Gatling, for instance, it's going to be pretty tough being able to outrun him in most conventional senses. An evade of 894 isn't too shabby, as it means he can dodge or graze pretty much as he sees the need to, and if the enemy is just that poorly blind. A melee resist of 1057 is okay, kind of being in that mid-range of where you want to be as a lower cutoff limit. But a shoot resist of 1349 does mean he can hold his own at range a whole lot better than he can up close and personal. And with a heavy support of 2, his legs are actually pretty solid across the board, like I said. When it comes to armor, he's actually pretty chunky as well in that department too. With a head armor of nearly 4500, right arm at just over 3400, left arm at just over 4000, and legs at just shy of 4100, he's got some pretty decent resist stats and some pretty good armor to boot, which means as long as he's not caught in a no dodge or no defend penalty state, he's able to pretty much fight on his own pretty easily by himself with no real drawbacks. And the leg ability of Super Armor is nice, as this does mean that anyone that tries to stun World Cup in any kind of capacity, such as using Tornado for Tornado Anti-Air, Freeze, or Thunder, or anything else of the like, he's rendered completely immune to all of those attacks a certain number of times, relative, of course, to the part rank of his legs in particular. All this being said, though, as a pure set score, I honestly have to rate this rather powerful turbo toilet type a very well-rounded 7.5 out of 10. It's actually a very synergetic model, as silly but also rather cool as its design is, between being able to use Mud Shot and Anti-C as the primary form of really dealing damage. Mega Gatling is there basically for the moments that you really can't use Mud Shot effectively, such as, say, if the enemy has some kind of stat cleanse ability going on, and you kind of have to work around it without having to change the parts around. And with it being non-heavy means he can use it pretty easily between all three of his skills available. And Super Armor, like I said, synergizes exceptionally well as a survival type perk, as it renders him immune to ailments. As mixed parts, I do have to rate him equally at a 7.5 out of 10 for these same reasons, as it does mean that you can use Mud Shot and Anti-C basically anywhere that you want to make use of that for your overall competitive coverage, even though I do have to warn that because both of those parts in particular are heavy, you do kind of have to pay attention to that when building it into the set. Mega Gatling, however, being non-heavy, means you can fit it into the team a whole lot easier than you would be able to anything else. And biped legs with a heavy support of 2 and Super Armor on top of that is a very solid addition you can use basically anywhere, no matter how you choose to